Carol Philip Tudor of the Democrat. Mr. Prime Minister, good afternoon. Earlier today, Melissa Bryant, my colleague right here, asked you a question about whether or not you felt that you had breached the law of the Constitution when you went abroad to Libya and wherever else you had gone without leaving anybody in charge. And you responded to that you didn't feel that you had. So I read section 52, bracket 9, bracket C of the Constitution. The office of a minister, other than the Prime Minister, shall become vacant on the appointment of any person to the office of Prime Minister. Do you know that you had left the country with vacated ministers behind? And do you now wish to recant the statement that you had made earlier?
Recant any statement. I said earlier that I did not breach the Constitution. With respect, I don't see how what you just read contradicts what I've just said. You're talking about how a ministerial position or post becomes vacant. I'm not talking to that at all. I'm talking about the Prime Minister continues to be in charge of the affairs of the country and managing the affairs of the country, whether or not he's here, or he's in St. Thomas, or he's in Nevis, or he's over in St. Lucia, or he's in Timbuktu.
Thank you, sir. The information I have available to me is that members that are part of your St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party have not and never have they heard about Lex Consulting until the leader of the People's Action Movement, Mr. Lindsay F.P. Grant, mentioned it while the campaign was ongoing. And I am asking
May I stop you and say that your information is wrong?
I am asking you here today if you have, as an obligation, an executive and leader of the party, have you fully informed members within your own party of Lex Consulting? And have you said in one of the many answers that you have given so far that the Lex Consulting had been part of doing work for your Labour Party? Have the Labour Party, the rest of the Labour Party, have they been informed of Lex Consulting from the very beginning? I have one more question, Mr. Prime Minister, if you would please indulge me.
After 2 questions proposed.
The Prime Minister did interrupt my question.
No, I don't mind. It's okay. Let her have the question.
I have one more question, please, Mr. Prime Minister. Yesterday, as I was listening to Financial Secretary, Mrs. Janet Harris, I was impressed at her zeal to collect monies that are owed to the Ministry of Finance. And this brings into question Mr. Cecil Rock, who has, as far as my understanding goes, at about $926,000 outstanding in monies owed to ports and so on for rental he had at the airport. And I would also like to know if you, in your capacity as Minister of Finance, did you send a letter to a company here in St. Kitts that Mr. Rock is entitled to 2 duty-free vehicles valued at about $300,000? And if you could answer to that, please, I would be very happy. Thank you.
May I start with the bottom up, as usual? Your charge of I sending a letter to somebody indicating that Mr. Rock is entitled to vehicles is absolute nonsense, and it is false. Secondly, Mr. Rock's indebtedness to the government, you seem to be very much aware of it. I am sure that the government procedures for collecting its revenue or monies owed to it are fully engaged in whatever activity that Mr. Rock might have been involved in this regard. Not only Mr. Rock, but anyone else who owes the government money in this regard. You mentioned a matter pertaining to Lex Consulting and other members of the Labour Party. I cannot speak for what members of the Labour Party know. What I would say to you, however, is that this is a press conference. that is organized by the Prime Minister. If you wish to have more information on party matters, the Labour Party matters, maybe we should use another forum, and I will deal with it accordingly in that forum. You mentioned the possible breaching of the Constitution. I think I mentioned that already. The section that you read that spoke to the ministerial positions being made vacant absolutely has nothing to do with the capacity of the Prime Minister to continue to look after the affairs of the country, whether or not he is on the island of St. Kitts in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.